Hi, I'm Tony Sumpster, CEO of Provar. Today we're talking about one of the biggest challenges enterprises are facing as they deploy AI agents at scale. Not whether the technology works, but whether organizations can truly trust it. AI agents are already embedded across enterprise platforms like Salesforce and ServiceNow, and board-level expectations are high. But confidence hasn't kept pace with ambition. I'm joined by Ivan Harris, Provar's Chief Product and Technology Officer, who leads the development of our TrustAI platform, and Alex Charles, founder of Inspire AI, one of the largest Salesforce and Agentforce consultancies in Europe, working hands-on with enterprises deploying agents today. Together, we want to explore why trust has become the limiting factor in agent adoption and how organizations can move forward with confidence. Let's start with what's changed. We've moved from automation to autonomy. Agents are no longer just executing predefined workflows. They're reasoning, responding, and making decisions in real time. That creates incredible opportunity. But it also introduces new risks that enterprise leaders are struggling to get comfortable with. Things like hallucination, where agents confidently provide incorrect information. Response drift, where behavior subtly changes over time. And non-deterministic outcomes, where the same prompt doesn't always lead to the same result. These aren't theoretical problems. They're happening today, and they're one of the main reasons organizations hesitate to scale. Alex, you're seeing this firsthand in Agentforce deployments. How real are these concerns?
100% real. In early stages of projects, often agents behave as you expect them to. They're operating in a mostly controlled, happy path environment with known data and limited scope. But once agents are exposed to real users, data, and edge cases, things can change. We can see hallucinations where agents fill data gaps too confidently. We see system drift as models adapt to new data and behaviors that technically work, but don't align with what the business intended. For enterprise leaders, that's often unacceptable, and understandably so. Even small levels of out-of-scope behavior can have big impacts when agents are interacting with customers, or handling sensitive data, or making decisions. As a result, organizations often pull back autonomy, limit scope, or slow deployment, not because they don't believe in agents, but because they don't yet trust them at scale.
That hesitation is what we describe as the AI trust gap. The ambition to deploy agents is there, but confidence in their ongoing behavior is not. Ivan, from a technology perspective, why do hallucinations, drift, and variability create such a challenge for enterprises?
Well, the challenge is that enterprise assurance was built for deterministic systems. Historically, you could define expected outputs, write tests, and validate the same behavior repeatedly. Agentic systems don't behave that way. Variation is not always a defect, it's often a feature. The problem is knowing whether that variation is acceptable or risky. Traditional testing can't easily distinguish between healthy adaptation and problematic drift. And monitoring alone only tells you something has already gone wrong. To trust agents, enterprises need assurance that is continuous, contextual, and aligned with intent, not just pass or fail. As agents become more capable, the consequences of getting this wrong increases.
Alex, how are teams addressing the risks associated with deploying agentic AI?
Well, most delivery teams rely on manual reviews, spot checks, and post-deployment monitoring. They'll test common scenarios, watch logs, and react when something unexpected happens. That approach works at a small scale, but it doesn't prevent issues like drift or incorrect behavior from emerging quietly over time. More importantly, it doesn't give leaders confidence up front. It tells you when something breaks, not whether it's safe to roll out fully in the first place. The majority of projects at Inspire AI and in the industry generally start as pilots and then roll out to a wider group of users or geographies, often with an order of magnitude more users. That is a key point where trust is tested.
And that's the gap Provar TrustAI is designed to address. Ivan, could you give us a high-level view of what TrustAI is and how it changes this dynamic?
Yes, happy to. TrustAI is a purpose-built assurance platform for AI agents. It is AI first, continuously learning, adapting, and providing insights on your agents. Its goal is to make trust something you can design, validate, and measure continuously. And that all starts with visibility. TrustAI delivers a single executive-level view of every agent across your organization, where they're deployed, and where the risk is emerging. Leaders and teams can drill into any individual agent, understand the policies and rules governing it, how it's been tested, and how it's behaving over time. Trust starts with intent. In TrustAI, that intent is captured through policies. Policies define what good looks like: security boundaries, compliance requirements, data usage expectations, behavioral standards. TrustAI provides out-of-the-box policy packs, including industry-specific frameworks for regulated environments. You can use them as is, customize them, or define your own policies aligned to your business and your agents. This is how governance moves from documentation into execution. And policies become real through rules. Rules translate intent into executable guardrails: what data an agent can access, how it's allowed to respond, which behaviors are acceptable and which are not. Traditionally, these rules live in isolation, disconnected from how agents are built and tested. TrustAI closes that gap. Rules become first-class inputs that directly drive assurance and confidence. Once policies and rules are defined, TrustAI automatically evaluates and tests agents against them. Agents can be tested at any stage of the lifecycle, from development, UAT, staging through to production. Tests focus on expected behavior, edge cases, and high-risk scenarios like hallucinations or response drift. Teams can refine and extend test coverage using natural language without turning assurance into a bottleneck. Agent behavior is continuously monitored in production, where signals are fed back into the assurance process. When agent behavior changes, confidence drops, or drift appears, TrustAI detects it early and strengthens future testing. Leaders get clear insight into agent health, policy compliance, and risk over time. Trust becomes measurable, defensible, and continuous. TrustAI brings agent policies, testing, and insights into a single assurance loop. It gives enterprise leaders the visibility and governance they need to scale AI safely, confidently, and responsibly. This is how trust in the Agentic Enterprise is designed, validated, and maintained.
Alex, having seen this approach, how does it change what's possible for enterprises deploying agents?
Well, it addresses the pain points that we hear from customers and the industry more widely. Hallucinations and therefore unpredictability are fundamentally built into these models. These are unsolved limitations, but with the right tools and approach, they become manageable. TrustAI gives teams a way to show with evidence that agents are behaving within agreed guardrails, even as the scope changes. That makes it much easier to increase autonomy, expand use cases, and move from a cautious pilot to real deployment, large rollouts, and therefore value.
Exactly, Alex. TrustAI spans the full lifecycle, from defining intent to validating behavior to continuously assuring agents in production. At every stage, it creates a clear, auditable record of how agents were governed, how they were tested, and how they behaved over time. TrustAI provides shared visibility for engineering, risk, and leadership teams with consistent metrics around confidence, policy compliance, and drift. And because it fits naturally into CI/CD pipelines and agent deployment workflows, assurance becomes part of how agents are delivered, not something that's bolted on later. It acts as a foundation for responsible scale where innovation can move fast without losing control.
So why Provar? For over a decade, we've helped some of the world's largest enterprises trust their most critical platforms, especially Salesforce. What we've learned is this: enterprises don't want more testing complexity, they want confidence. Agent assurance is new and it's hard. Knowing what to test, knowing how much is enough, knowing whether an agent can be trusted in production. That's where our experience matters. TrustAI applies everything we've learned about enterprise-grade test automation and quality engineering, so customers don't have to figure this out for themselves. TrustAI isn't about testing for testing's sake. It's about giving leaders confidence that agents are behaving as intended, within policy and under control. The Agentic Enterprise is here. The organizations that succeed will be the ones that can scale agents with confidence, not just speed. That's why we're launching Provar TrustAI. If you're deploying AI agents and want to do it with confidence, we'd love to work with you as a pilot partner. You can move fast in the Agentic Enterprise and build trust at every step. Thanks for joining us.